Normally, just I don't know. Definitely the looks, or and it's not like it happens a lot, but it does happen. You know what I mean? Or since I've been watching YouTube, sometimes I think people maybe say certain things, and then me and my friend we kind of debrief after every YouTube show, and these conversations are funny because sometimes it'll be like maybe a certain person said something, and it's like, well, did that comment bother you, or did that? And it doesn't, because I get where black people are coming from. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I do. Like, I get where black people are coming from. There is a difference in the way that black people are treated by the police, by the it's a difference, and we have to understand. I wish more white people understood the struggle. I remember when George Floyd, the trial went on, and after the trial was over, and this is totally off topic, but I just want to say it to prove my point. They were when the lawyers got up and all the family spoke and everything, somebody that I know made a comment like, my God, did they have to bring everybody that knew the man on TV to talk about it? They don't do that. If somebody white gets convicted, or if somebody black gets convicted, the white people don't get up there and make. And I'm like, it's a shame that it has to be done. It's a shame that it was such a unusual circumstance for somebody to actually get convicted, and people being so shocked about it that, I wish it was just the same for everybody, and nobody would have to get up there and talk, with everybody. That verdict was shocking to people. They didn't expect it, even though it was definitely the right verdict. People don't expect stuff like that. So I don't know. Maybe I just understand, again, due to proximity. Maybe that's it.
Okay, okay. Thank you, guys. What y'all think? What do you guys believe about proximity? Because, well, let me say this first. I agree with what Dawn said in terms of her agreement of proximity. But going back to what Vic said, so I talked about that school that I had gone to in Brooklyn called St. Mark's. I went there from third grade to sixth grade. One of the best experiences, you know. After that, I went to a military school for 2 years. It was a boarding school, and then I went to a prep school in the Bronx for a couple of years before I came back to Brooklyn. And so, for I would say about 4 years straight, I was around a significant amount of white people. And then even before I went to that black school, first kiss that I ever got was a white girl. The first crush that I ever had was a white girl. I was in Catholic school. It was the first grade, and girl called me cutie pie, and that was the first time a girl ever called me cutie pie. And I got all excited. I went home. I told my mom, she called me cutie pie. Her name was Robin Moreno. Robin Marino. I always remember, right? Called me
Italian.
cutie pie. I remember that. First girl I kissed was an Italian girl, because where we moved to an area called Canarsie, which is right out of Flatbush in Brooklyn. And that's where the Caribbean and then the Italian areas actually met up. First girl I kissed was a white girl. You get what I'm saying? Southern racism and the impacts of the Southern racial experience are much different than the Northern racial experience. I definitely believe it. Somebody who was one of my proteges, who's actually like, a high level executive at the company now. We talked. I had to give him pep talks because he's from Boston. But now he's down here. And it's like nobody would trust him but me. And I had to explain to him the northern black racial experience and the southern black racial experience are different. We grew up in a place of promise. We grew up in a place that was technically the paradise during slavery time. We grew up in the place which was the end of the Underground Railroad. It was the destination. we were the shores of paradise. So, in coming from that environment, we grew up seeing things, being able to see black millionaires, being able to see certain things back when we had Seneca Village, which is in the place that's now called Central Park, right? There were so many things that were going on. So we see it different. But then I said, in the South, you're in Atlanta. More than likely, you're going to have people whose grandmothers, great grandmothers, oh, thank you, mothers, great grandmothers, who happen to have been slaves, great grandmothers and grandmothers that may have been slaves or had a direct connection to Jim Crow and the atrocities that took place. So it's different. And that's where the proximity piece comes in. Because there was one point, now I talk about myself, had the crush, the white girl crush or what have you. But it was when I went to school in the Bronx, and I see Jen jump on too. I went to high school in the Bronx, right? I went to a high school called Fordham Prep for the first 2 years of high school. And I used to have to ride the 4 train from the beginning stop, Utica, all the way to a street called Meshulah Parkway, which was the end stop. And it was literally a 2-hour ride to get to school. 8 o'clock, I used to have to leave the house at about 5:45. Excuse me. I bring that up because riding to the Bronx was where I started to have my thing for the Latina women. I started, and I thought it was a preference. You know what I mean? I thought it was a preference, but in the beginning, it might have been a novelty because we didn't see a lot of Puerto Rican, beautiful Puerto Rican, Dominican women around the area that I grew up. So it was when now I'm heading directly to the Bronx, where it's like, that is the home of the Afro-Caribbean culture. And I just started seeing a lot of different women that did not look like the women that I was used to seeing. You understand what I mean? Do I believe it was because of skin complexion? Do I believe it was because of hair texture? Not necessarily. Okay? No, I don't think it was that. I spent a year, literally a few months within a year, traveling and staying in Boise, Idaho. I felt like I was exotic. I was not treated negatively in any racial way. I felt as though I was exotic because I was something that was not common to that area. And that's where I believe that the proximity comes in, because when I started going to the Bronx and I was seeing, the Puerto Rican girls there, and what was so cool about it with the culture was, when you would see them, and I was in a prep school, it was all boys, right? Fordham Prep. And then we had a sister school, all girls school called Mount St. Ursula, right? So we would always end up passing them on school, on the bus. And what was so dope about the Puerto Rican girls, right? The Hispanic girls, you didn't just see them and be like, hey, what's up? Nah, they want to get kiss on the cheek. Yo, I was falling in love with that shit. I was like, damn, I'm getting like these beautiful girls kissing me. It was a thing. I don't want to call it fetish. I believe that I saw something I had not seen before, and it enthralled me. You know what I mean? Remember we tell you about the diamond. You see a diamond, when you're looking at it, you see the least amount of facets on there, but you turn it around, and it was like, and I had not been to Puerto Rico yet at that time. So it's like, you turn it around, and I was just like, wow. Like, the first time you ever go and eat sushi, you're like, wow, I didn't know this existed. And that's what it was for me. But was it a coloristic thing? What I'm 100 watts, was it a coloristic thing for me? Nah, it wasn't colorism at all. I just got to see more, man. I got to see more. If you look, the mothers of my children, right? So I did black, I have dark skin. Like the mother of my daughter is Indian. All right, Indian. Them call them coolie gal from Crujan gal from St. Croix, right? But her parents, they're Indian. Both of them are straight Indian.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a big thing over there.
It's yeah, I can't see. I don't see colorism. I know colorism exists. Yes, it exists. My aunt, one of my aunts, she was the lightest one. There was a little picking and teasing that folks would do. You know, within the culture, Caribbean culture, they make fun of the lighter child. African culture, they make fun of the lighter child. It happens. Is it something that I subscribe to? Not at all.
So can we say that colorism exists? Because I think this is kind of what Mr. O is trying to say as well. Can we say maybe colorism does exist, but it doesn't exist in every single situation where you see an interracial couple, if you get what I'm saying? It's not always the case. Like Mr. O said, like maybe it was just, I think his focus is more so culture than anything else. What that person, how that person makes him feel, because sometimes we might see an interracial couple and people automatically assume that there's some sort of fetish in there. And I think that's where we go wrong, because now we're projecting, right? And that's what I say. People say that the book I was reading talks about seeing with the mind. It means that your mind then projects that image into that situation, right? So sometimes you might have someone that's talking about something and it has nothing to do with race, and they can't do anything else but introduce the concept of race, because that's what's on the forefront of their mind all the time. So I think it's, for me, what I'm listening to is more so like, yes, colorism exists. I would be crazy to deny it, but it doesn't mean that it applies to every single situation where there is like a mixture of culture, ethnicity, or race. I guess that's what I would say.
All right. So, 100 watts.
You get a plate?
Talk to me. What do you think about colorism? First of all, do you think colorism is a thing? And if you do think it's a thing, do you think that it's a fair assumption or it's just preference?
I kinda, in listening to this conversation here tonight, what I'm honestly thinking right now is colorism sometimes is a lot of projection, right? It's a lot of someone's personal opinion or traumas with a particular group, which is why that comes to play, right? Because
You're cheating.
like when we're talking about interracial relationships, there are some people who, like Mr. O was saying, like, yo, like she's literally just giving me what I asked for. Like, it's not about color, it's not about what her hair looks like, it's not about where she came from or nothing. Like, she's literally just giving me what I asked her for, right? So that, like, you can't that's not colorism. There's no way for that. However, I do understand that there are some people that are in interracial relationships. There was one gentleman that I had on my show, as a matter of fact, and what he was saying was that his experience, in particular, from between high school and college age, his experience with black women was, "Oh, you're corny. You're a nerd. They don't want nothing to do with him." So then, when he does get that attention from someone who is fairer skinned, now they're looking at him crazy, but they're not trying to acknowledge the pain that they pushed on him. You feel me? They're not trying to accept
the Dennis Rodman story.
Huh?
That was the literal story Dennis Rodman gave when he was doing the interview, and they asked people, there's controversy about you dating white women and spending so much time dating white women. And he almost came to tears. He got choked up because remember, he moved to go to a white family. He started with his family and then he was adopted by a white family. And he literally said, the black girls in school, they didn't want me. He got choked up. They would call me this, call me goofy. They didn't want me. And then now all of a sudden it's an issue because they see me with a white woman. And they never wanted me in the first place. They don't like me.
I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, like when you're doing what you're happy with doing, just do that because people can find a reason to be mad about anybody's relationship. Like, oh, Jay-Z shouldn't be with Beyonce. She too cute to be with him. Like those are two powerful black people. Why are we, you know what I'm saying? Why you're pushing your own energy on that, right? Like, oh, he shouldn't be with that white girl. He should be with a black woman. Like you're pushing your own thing on people. Like the colorism thing. I just feel like it's an eternal how can I say it and it makes sense? It's like when you look at yourself, it's like you're unhappy with your reflection, right? You're unhappy with what you're seeing, so because of that, you might start pushing that off on other people. That's just what I've been thinking about this conversation here tonight so far.
All right. So what's funny is you kind of bent the corner and unrabbit the rabbit hole for one of them. So I always like to go point you guys back to previous discussions we had, and you'll see it on the Chef Choupino page. We had two conversations. One conversation, and it was a lead-in. One conversation was simping versus love. And then the next conversation was, can a woman simp or can women simp, right? And then so it leads in to this piece. And the general consensus, even with this one, was I believe that simp and pick me, right? Because that was the women's simp. That was what they were calling women's simps, was pick me. I believe that simp and pick me were both subjective terms that would be leveraged against another person that is willing to do more to get the same person that you would want. They're just willing to do more than your punk ass. And you got a name for them and you got a nickname because psychologically or metaphorically, they are up here and you're down here. So what you're going to do is throw out an attack that will bring them down and you question their motives. So now you don't feel as bad because they're only a foot and a half above you as opposed to 20 feet above you. So I believe that is a subjective term. And in terms of colorism, you bent that corner, 100 watts. I should have left you as in detention or something. You, pretty much, that's where my feeling is on the issue. You know, I believe that colorism does exist. Yes, it does exist. But I've noticed that the people that tend to scream it for a particular reason. You know, and once you say, because you call somebody a pick-me, you can do what that pick-me does to try and get a man. But when you scream colorism, ain't nothing there's nothing you could do to change the outcome. So now you never have a win. So that's something that you actually place on yourself now as a defeatist attitude. Uh-oh, we got trouble here. Put your vest, grab your Kevlar, put your vest on, y'all. Tuck your chains.
You know what that means?
I have a question.
J-Bo coming on. J-Bo. J-Bo.
Hey, Jen.
Hi.
Tell her to tuck your chains, yo.
Hello, Jen.
Look, I don't got no money.
Hi,
What up, Jen?
What it do, yo?
everybody. Good to see
Look,
you. Thank you for
I don't
that.
know what the hell that you did, yo, but we want our real Mr. O back, yo. Y'all send him back his house. You don't want to say shit. You don't want to talk about nothing.
She broke him.
Yo, I did, man.
Mr. O is just chilling tonight.
He's actually,
Just living.
if you watch our stream, he held his own and he claims he won the debate. So I ain't got nothing to say. Yeah.
Man, I'm gonna watch the replay.
It was a good show.
He claims
You won?
I live with that.
But nah, like I think that she pointed out one of the ladies on the panel made a good point about how be conscious on how we say what we say, because it affect the women that we are presiding in front of a certain way. And although we may mean one thing, they hear something different. So I'm just trying to be cautious on how I present what I want to say, not dilute the message, but like get the point across.
I feel you on
It's
that
that.
before, because I got to step away for just for 1 second, right? Vic, you gonna drive, but I just say this, bro. That's why there's times where I don't know. I'm playing it safe too. I'm a corporate guy as well. There's times where I'm not sharing certain opinions on certain things. But here's the thing. Here's your safeguard. When you're asked the question, sometimes one thing I've noticed, especially with the flowers, if you come with some unsolicited stuff, if you say I'm thirsty, to them you're telling them, yo, go get me something to drink. You may just say I'm thirsty, but to them they think you're saying, oh, go get me something to drink, right? But the thing is, if she asks you, hey, you hungry? Nah, baby, I'm just thirsty. Then it's a little different. If she said, you hungry? Like, nah, I'm just a little thirsty, baby. Oh, then it's different. So the thing is, on the forum, I don't know. You know what? I'm going to shut my mouth because I got to go see that one. But normally I'm under the impression that, well, shit, you can't tell me nothing if it was solicited, right? Well, see, y'all just got Jen another view. I'm going to watch that after this. Go ahead, y'all. Do your thing, Jen.
What's up, Hanifa? What's up, everybody on the panel?
Hey,
Thank you.
Jen.
What it do?
In the chat, I'm trying to respond to everybody. I love the topic. I love the topic, colorism versus preference, because it's a big deal. I've listened for like 5 minutes, and there are already some really good points being made. I wanted to touch on how I can relate to something, what Dennis Rodman said. I think that we find our tribe, right? We go where we're accepted and celebrated, not tolerated, right? And I'll give you an example. Yes, I'm Latina, but I am not the mainstream media promoted Latina, which is the light, the white skin and the dead hair, the Jennifer Lopez's, the Cameron Diaz, the Christina Aguilera's. I don't fit in that category. And when you're Puerto Rican, your relatives are literally from blonde and blue-eyed all the way to chocolate dark skin.
Carolina Fajardo.
Right? Loisa, right?
Loisa, yeah.
My dad is a brown-skinned man with an afro. He would look just regular black man if he walked past you. My mother was the stark opposite. So we have relatives of all shades, of all eye colors and everything. Now, even within that tribe, something similar to what Dennis Rodman said, I didn't feel comfortable in certain circles on my mother's side because I feel like we couldn't relate to each other, right? I mean, we don't even have the same hair products. We don't even use the same brushes, right? Like my mother did not know what to do with my hair. So what you do is you gravitate towards your tribe, people with similar interests, right? And it doesn't mean that you're denying, the other side of you or any side of you, but human nature causes you to go towards your tribe and people that you relate to. I'm a hip hop kid, born and raised in the Bronx, New York. My girlfriends were listening to freestyle. I didn't like freestyle. I'm a Bronx kid, right? And my mother had a lot of R&B and Motown in the living room. So you gravitate to where you're accepted and celebrated and where you feel you're most strong. So I get the Dennis Rodman thing. I get even the blurred thing where it's like a lot of guys are like, well, I like to do this. And a lot of girls can't relate to this. So I went and found me a girl that can relate to this. It doesn't mean that you're turning your back on your tribe. It's human nature to go where you're accepted and celebrated. And I think that people, don't understand how colorism, how prevalent it is in the Latin community. Because when people think Latin, they think white Latin. They think white Tino, what I call white Tino, instead of Latino and Latina, white Tina and white Tino. But Latins are so vast in color and culture, right? But people think Latin and it's not anyone's fault that when someone says Latin to you, you think Ricky Martin and Jennifer Lopez, because that's what they've been shoving down our throats for decades, right? You don't think Amara la Negra. Thank the universe, Amara la Negra, she's out now and she's popular, because I think she was a slap in the face to a lot of Latins. that practice colorism and practice it harshly. Okay, Latins, we have the grandmothers that are like, adelantar la raza, right? That's an actual saying in the Latin community, which means to upgrade the race. Don't bring me somebody here that's darker than you. And this is said in Spanish. So colorism is very, very prevalent in the Latin community. And the stream Mr. O and I had earlier, we got into race and colorism and what have you. And the answer is we have to be in those spaces. We have to be in those rooms, right, to make the changes. I'm a writer. I wrote a series that's all Afro-Latino cast. I will not cast anyone else. So we, as cliche and corny as it sounds, we have to be the change that we want to see. We can't ask people to let us in. We can't beg people. We can't cry. We can't bitch and moan. We have to be the change that we want to see, period. That's how I do my changing of the world. I'm not begging to be let in. I'm going to get in. But it's not always that, I'm turning my back on this. It's just you're gonna go where you're celebrated. That's human nature. If I'm a cat and the cats around me don't like me, and I meet that one dog that likes me for all and who I am, I'm going to be hanging out with the dog. But then the cats are going to be mad, right?
True.
So I totally get that.
People go where the love is. Honestly, I agree with you, Jen. I think where we have to be careful, and I think you could tell the difference where someone is choosing what they're choosing out of trauma, right, and bad experiences. When and I'm going to speak from a different angle because we tend to get on the black men here. But let's say you have a black woman and she's with a white man, right? When she feels the need to spit on black men every chance she gets, that lets me know what drove your decision. You get what I'm saying? You can go and you can be with a Caucasian solely out of he loves me, like that. Like I'm saying, Dr. O. Dr. O, I might be prophesying. Mr. O was saying that.
Talk on it, man. Hey, talk on that one.
No, this is how she makes me feel, right?
Yeah.
Versus someone that's saying that anything that happens, this is why I'm not with black men. Black men ain't shit. Black men. So then that lets me know that your decision was made out of trauma. Trauma is what's driving your decision. And I think we're able to differentiate the two just by listening to how the person speak about their experience. You know what I'm saying? And there are those people who do that, where I know you're choosing that person because you are hurt by the people that look like you. You know what I mean? Now, there are those who, not Dr. O, Mr. O have traveled the world, right? So if you're well-traveled, you are being exposed to so many different cultures, right? And so you can tell a difference between somebody that has traveled and they just fell in love or, with another culture versus someone who deliberately went that way because they have a disdain for the culture that they come from. You can tell the difference by what they say. Yeah.
And also, I don't think that it's always, I think people should be allowed some grace. It's not always malicious, right? Mr. O and I discussed earlier, sometimes you have to ask yourself the hard question, why do I prefer this thing? Is it really because of me? Or is it because media told me this is the thing that I should like? What's being shoved down my throat daily? Is this really, because some people be like, oh no, it's just, listen, it's just my preference, right? But sometimes you have to ask yourself, is it really your preference, or have people put something in front of you continuously making you think that that's your preference? And sometimes we have to pause and ask ourselves, why do I only date X, Y, and Z? Why do I only think this certain thing is attractive? So I recommend people pause and ask, like, do I like this? Because it's not always self-hate. It's not always malicious. It's not always, well, I'm over here because I don't like that over there, right? So you have to pause and ask yourself, why do I like this thing? Why am I here? Why do I believe in this thing? Why do I always eat this thing? Do I even like this? Or has my mother been cooking it since I was little, right? Why do I believe in it such as this? So I think sometimes you have to ask yourself, but I echo Hanifa, it depends on you. You can tell if someone's always bashing a certain thing, then you could kind of tell, okay, you've had bad experiences over there and there's some unresolved issues. that you're not dealing with and you're projecting.
There's always a lot of involuntarily programming going on in a lot of our upbringing. You got commercials at gas stations now in elevators. Like I know girls that don't watch sports will tell you the score because on their way to the bathroom in the morning the TV was on and they heard the Rockets beat the 76ers 119 to 108. Like she don't watch basketball. But you just know things. And when you see the depiction of something and you buy a Red Bull and it's standing next to Marilyn Monroe, right? We tend to want to idolize that. So it's kind of like human nature. You know, I guess you just got to be smarter than that and cut out as much static as possible to really find out who you are. I don't know. And I wanted to also clarify one thing for the record and the win. Mr. O held his own on the block with Jen, for sure. I won over there because it's coming off like I got defeated and she changed me. No, I definitely won that debate, for the record.
See, watch it for yourself. That's all I'm gonna
For the
say.
record, and the chat agreed. I had chat members agreed, so I had more points.
So
It was fun though.
I just wanted to kind of address because there was a couple of things that was in the chat. What's up, Juan? I appreciate you. I know I noticed you had mentioned a few times you were saying you were so frustrated by the conversation. Why so called people black so obsessed with race? There's only one race. So here's the thing. In this situation, the conversation is about colorism. Even though it's something we may not ascribe to or subscribe to, it's something that exists. So we're about solutions. We're about solutions about good topics, but more important, solutions about the sticky topics, because the good stuff doesn't need solutions. We just want to figure out how it happened. So we're just here talking about different things, different conundrums that exist within our people or within the community. So that's one of the reasons that we're talking about it. It's kind of like cancer. Don't nobody like or want that shit. But a lot of people spend a lot of money trying to figure it out and try to figure out a way to stamp it out. So, you know, this is just our metaphorical cancer research to see what it is that caused it, why does it happen. It doesn't mean that we all subscribe to it, but the thing is,
so like where it's like effective that we didn't talk about was like with the kids too. Like I remember like my when my daughter week. Yeah, like the kids that grow up in one neighborhood and then my daughter she transferred to a more suburban area and she was now around white kids and she felt it was like 2 white kids per classroom in where she went to versus all black kids, and she felt lesser than those white kids. They wouldn't even play with her at recess, you know, and she would think that something was wrong with her hair because of the image. I do agree with it on that side. We never touched on that, but I've seen that.
So I want to speak to something because it exists, right? And I want to touch on something that Jen said a moment ago about in terms of having children. Having children. Does colorism exist? I don't know. How many people you know that have told you or have done it themselves where they go and they check the back of a baby's ears? You ever heard of that?
Yeah.
Can anyone speak to that phenomenon?
Is that where you get your color first, right?
Yeah. I said it in on the last show when we had the panel, and I think it was Monique and Jen, and somebody else was looking like, huh? And then Tawana and I was like, oh, that's a thing. Yeah, checking the back of the baby's ear to kind of have an idea of how dark they're going to get. It is a real thing. Grandmothers are still doing it to this day. And so that's why I keep saying you don't have to believe in something for it to exist. It's going to exist without your belief, period. And colorism is a real thing. So when we talk about this phenomena that Chef is talking about, it is because now colorism exists within people. People brings the colorism with them wherever they go. Don't get me wrong. So when you enter the hospital and that baby is of a lighter complexion because they were just born, and you're waiting and you're constantly checking the air, that's you projecting your colorist, right, idea onto that baby or into that situation. So yes, that's a real thing.
What does anybody else think about that? Because I've known a lot of women that said they want their baby to have that. They wanted to have them to have that what? That good hair.
That good hair.
Good hair.
I never heard that
Yeah.
from a dude. I heard
I
that.
think
Damn.
I think it's the obvious, although people hate talking about slavery and the plantation and diaspora, and that's where it began. So, you know, for anyone who's like, why do these conversations keep happening? Why are we discussing this? It's because we're still afflicted by it. It's because it still determines whether or not we get jobs. It's because it determines whether or not, you know, we're accepted in certain spaces. That's why it's still an issue. That's why people still talk about it. But it started on the plantation. That is where it began. Again, in the Latin community, I know for a fact, women, I've heard conversations and they're watching how curly a child's hair is. Because, you know, when the child comes out, it's always straight and slick. And then they're literally discussing, oh, it looks like it's getting curly, or check the back of her head and check the back of his head and see how, you know, how curly it's going to get. So these things are still happening and they're still being passed down today. There was an Instagram video where a girl had a baby and she was pissed off, literally holding the baby. You can Google it. It's on YouTube. She has the baby in her hands and she's pissed off because the baby doesn't have green eyes. This is a newborn. So this is still happening today. So are we the ones perpetuating it with these little things that we do? Like Hanifa said, we bring the colorism with us. And sometimes we do it subconsciously. Sometimes we do it consciously. Sometimes we do it because it's tradition in our family to check the texture of a child's hair or check how light their eyes are. Because why? Because the closer you are in proximity to whiteness, the further you're going to get in life, supposedly, allegedly, right? In life. So that's why it exists and we still do it. Some of us do it in tiny ways. Some of us do it in big ways. And it's the things not only that we bash, but when you look at it, it's the things that we celebrate. Like when a person of color, Black or Latin, has green eyes or blue eyes, it is celebrated like someone won a gold medal. Do you notice that? And they literally put green eyes. They literally put green eyes as their nickname, or blue eyes. Who are you talking about? Green eyes? Like it's some sort of accomplishment. We have to be careful about what we celebrate as well. I'm like, okay, so he has green eyes. What do you end? Right? There's a TikTok video, a TikTok challenge video, and I'm sure a couple of us have seen it, where there's playing a slow jam, and then the person starts with, you know what I mean, their eyes closed, and when they open it, their eyes are blue or green. Right? So then I commented, people with brown eyes need to start doing this TikTok challenge, right? So it's like, you know, white people aren't doing that. White people aren't on TikTok closing their eyes and showing that they're blue or green because that's their norm. But when it happens in our community, it's like a big deal. It's like, oh my God, you Black or green eyes, or you're Latin with blue eyes. It's a big deal. So we have to be careful about what we celebrate, not just what we bash, but what we celebrate. What are we celebrating? Right? Don't get me started.
And the children are watching. The children are always watching. I'm sorry, Chef. Is it okay if I respond to Joanna?
Of course. This is your show right now. I'm just moderating.
No, she said that how do you deal with like racism, I guess it is? Oh, no, colorism. I'm assuming you just ignore it. Oh, that is so problematic. I'm trying to see how I could approach it in the most respectful manner. You know me. If I let Jen get it, Jen ain't gonna care. No, just ignoring something does not fix it. that's like telling Black people to just ignore the fact that the police pulling them over, right, could be a dangerous seat. Just act like there's no racist police officers out there and you'll be just fine, right? I think that's a setup to not discuss these things. I have an issue with colorblind white people, and I have an issue with colorblind Black people. I just do, because I think that you minimize my experience when you do that. When you tell me, oh, I don't see color, because oftentimes our experiences are very much connected to the color of our skin, and that's a fact, especially in Western society. That's a real thing. So to minimize that and simply say, oh, I don't see color, is to say I don't acknowledge your difference, right? I don't acknowledge your uniqueness. I don't acknowledge your experience. And I think that doesn't allow room for honest conversation and honest dialogue to happen, to be honest. It's a very, yeah, I'm gonna stop there.
I think that what's important, because ignoring stuff, especially when we're talking about kids, ignoring stuff is not going to be the solution to what you're talking about. Because what's going to end up happening is when you try to act like it doesn't exist and this child experiences it, because no matter what you believe, no matter what ideas you have within inside of your home, you can't control what other people have going on in their life, right? All of these isms that exist, the ists and isms and all of that stuff that exists, you can't control how other people carry that, right? So, for example, like Mr. O was talking about, for example, my daughter, when she was 6 years old, my daughter was only 6 years old, was at a park playing, and the little boy said, "You're fun, but we can't be friends because my mother doesn't let Black people come over to my house." 6 years old, you see what I'm saying? So how you can't ignore it. That can't be ignored because that affected my daughter. There had to be a conversation to sit down and explain to her, hey, look, I understand that you do feel a way. You can't let it bother you because that's not your fault. It's not your fault you were Black when you were born. And she's lighter than I am. You see what I'm saying? My daughter is lighter than I am. And it's like, it's not your fault you were the color you are. It's not your fault your hair texture is the way that it is. You are who you are. I need you to embrace that. I need you to be happy with who you are, and don't let someone else being uncomfortable with the way you look or the way your hair looks or the way your voice sounds or all of that. You can't let all of that take you from being happy with who you are. So to act like it doesn't exist, you're not solving the problem. The way to solve the problem is to acknowledge it and inform them that this is going to happen, but don't let this affect how you feel about yourself.
I actually think it is to 100 watts point. I actually think it's enabling it, because to be silenced when something is happening, when there's an injustice happening, you being silenced is actually choosing to allow an injustice to continue. So it actually enables bad behavior. So 100 watts, you just talked about the boy not addressing it, maybe not saying to their parents, this is what your son says. It's almost like saying to your daughter, just ignore it, as if it's to almost ignore and dismiss your daughter's the impact it had on your daughter. It's to say just ignore it and just brush it off. It's like, oh, I don't even want to acknowledge your feelings around it. And I think that just creates a worse situation actually going forward. It's really just encouraging bad behavior, to be honest. So I don't want to harp on Joanna. I just wanted to address that particular thing, because I just don't know that that's a constructive solution to what we're talking about. That's all.
I'm about to play something. I want you guys to take a look at and just give me your opinion on it. And this is based on the same thing that we've been talking about. And of course, I set up my little fair use action. Still get my technicals on deck.
I was listening to some of the lyrics, and one of them said, "She know I'm kind of ugly. It's like Beauty and the Beast."
I ain't gonna lie. That lyric get known like that bit pop out. That's what I don't know. But yeah, I ain't gonna lie. I know I'm ugly too.
You think you're ugly?
Love peace. I still get hope. True. I still be on my fly man shit though.
Well, you know, money makes you handsome.
Yeah.
And fame makes you handsome too.
I know. That's why they be talking about he ugly, but I still, yeah, I already know. But I ain't fuck these hoes. I got a wife.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You wifed up?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know though, man. Are you in? Remember there was a whole Kodak thing about how he prefers light skin girls? Because
I broke up with
he was saying how light skin girls are easier to control, I guess. Something like that. Are you on that?
I ain't gonna lie. What he say? I'm already black. I don't need no black bitch.
Right, that's what he said.
So yeah, I ain't gonna lie. I can't have no cut. Like I know if I'm fucking with you, I'm black as fuck, right? I'm black as shit.
Yeah, black is beautiful though, man.
So I know if I fuck with a black bitch, we gonna have a black ass baby.
So
I ain't with that.
Why?
Cause I'm already black as fuck.
So
I can't. No.
Well, I mean, this is an interesting thing. You know what I mean? Like, so if you have a baby, you don't want your baby to be the same complexion as you?
Mm.
Why?
This is a once in a lifetime thing.
What do you mean?
Like, this a dark ass shade. They be hell nah. I can't have.
Is your mom same shade as you?
Nah.
She's
hell nah. My mom like caramel mocha.
Okay, so your dad is darker.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nah, that's what? You talking about I'm black. You see that boy.
So your dad is actually darker.
Yeah.
Okay. Has your mom ever said that she doesn't want her grandkids to be?
Nah.
Okay. Because I remember I interviewed Amara La Negra. You know who that is? She's on Love and Hip Hop. I'm gonna show you.
Oh, you talking the little shit like Afro?
Yeah. Her.
Yeah, I know you talking about.
I interviewed her.
It's sad, but it's the truth. I've heard it many, many times. And we are treated differently. A lot of Latinos don't want my kind mixed into their family because they didn't want to better the race. And better the race means more European features.
That sounds like some clown shit. Ain't gonna lie, that sounds like some clown.
That's some clown shit. Straight up. But you're saying that you don't want a kid that's going to be your complexion. But don't you want your kid to look like you though? No. Do you have kids?
No.
You ain't got no kids. Well, let me tell you something, man. When you have kids, you're going to really enjoy having that kid look like you. You're going to enjoy seeing yourself in that kid. Trust me, I got friends that are parents, man, who definitely get off on that. You know what I mean? But fuck it. It is what it is.
Woo!
Spicy topic.
Boy. That sounds
painful.
You seen the text?
Painful.
Flip this. It was painful. So now it was very painful. That's my opinion, but I don't want to bias this thing. I want y'all to talk some more about it. Tell me what you think when you saw it, and any of the folks that said that it doesn't exist or we should ignore it.
That sounds trauma bound.
Right. Like, how would, I would want to know, for one, how would we deal with that? Because this person already exists. So how would we deal with him? But let's talk about it, man. And let y'all speak on this one.
Look, let's just be honest about it. A lot of this comes from how we treat each other from an elementary school age. And that comes from how our parents treat us. And, you know what I mean? That's how kids kind of gather what is good, what is bad, what is right, what is wrong. You know what I'm saying? So they coming off of whatever their parents. So when they parents tell them that they black is whatever or whatever, they bring that with them. You know what I'm saying? You sit your little black, you know what I'm saying? And all of that transfers. So when we go to school, you talking about, oh, he blue black. You know what I'm saying? Or he, you know, I mean, all of the jokes that are jokes to everybody except the person that they aimed at. And that's your result. That man is feel away inside about his own skin tone. He feel away. He feel away. And what he doesn't want to do is put his own child through that same trauma by setting him up for failure by picking someone as dark as him and not giving him a chance to be attractive or whatever. So
That's
I don't
funny.
think it's like self-hate as opposed to the protection of someone else coming behind them.
It is. I
Can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. I was saying that I agree to a certain extent. I think there is.
What's up, Nifa?
Oh, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah, it went off again.
No, I was saying it looked like I keep pressing it. I was saying that I agree with you up until that it may not be self-hate. There is a level of self-hate there, whether it's conscious or subconscious, it's still there.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, because when you don't want to see yourself replicated, there's a level of hate that's there. But Malcolm X comes to mind when he gave that speech and he asked, who taught you to hate yourself? You know what I mean? So yes, we do it to ourselves. I don't disagree with that. I am big on taking personal responsibility and accountability. I think we need to do more of that. If we could start addressing it amongst ourselves, then we could start to address it on the macro, because the macro is going to exist, and it influences the micro. So when we talk about our community, we're talking about the micro. And can we address the micro without addressing the macro? If the macro is actually trickling down to the micro, I don't know, but we could at least try, right? But yes, there is a level of self-hate there, and I agree with you completely. He actually don't want his son to go through what he went through. That's really what's happening. It's sort of like, I don't want you to go through, but Vic, that also includes the self-hate.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? He don't want
understand.
someone to hate himself either. And he also
Two things can be true, right?
Yeah, all it's all included in my opinion. But it was sad to hear but that's real. That's real, because people talk a lot about like people diluting races and stuff like that. There's a lot of darker complexion black women and men, and there are black women that feel the same way, even if they don't articulate it, even if they don't vocalize it. And so they choose partners based on, I don't ever want my child to have to go through what I went through. So therefore, I'm going to choose someone that's going to help me bring a child into this world that might be possibly lighter than I am. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's a combination, but I definitely believe there's some self-hate there as well. I don't know if he would own that, but I think it's there.
Let me pose this question. I'm not going to take the floor. I just want to pose a question to whoever wants to talk next. Is black beautiful to black people? And at what shade does it stop being beautiful?
This is what I want to say, man. Like, first of all, Vlad is not qualified to even be asking those type of questions or having those. He took this kid didn't even see this coming, and he didn't know how to respond. Vlad kind of led him down there. But we don't need to be taking advice from that kid either. He don't know what he's talking about. His rejection from society and women ain't based on the tone of his skin. It's based on bad genetics. He is unattractive, and it's his genetics. You could be purple and have good genetics and still be attractive and carry yourself a certain way. He want to blame his rejection on how dark he is, but it's more about his features and his genetics. Like, he's not an attractive male. That don't got nothing to do with his color. And him trying to like add a lighter skin, no, you're trying to add better genetics into your gene pool to increase the way you look.
Hold on.
It ain't about that.
You said he's not an attractive male.
Right.
What about him, as far as his features, do you think is making him unattractive?
He has bad genetics overall. I'm not finna sit up here and judge a man
like big nose.
Wait, you were talking about the guy that was on the screen?
Yeah, he just has bad genetics. I'm not gonna call, he's unattractive. I'm not saying that he ugly.
You said bad genetics.
Yes, he has bad genetics. He's not a tone. It's not his skin color. It's his genes.
Okay, hold on one second. I'm gonna bring something up.
Whoa.
But that's a highlight. That's a highlight to our ethnic image. You know what I'm saying? So if you can say that he's unattractive, because that's not how he described himself. Yeah. He was more in tune with his color.
He don't know what he's talking about. He's a child.
What's his name?
That guy is Glock 9.
Glock 9.
Well, can somebody please define bad genetics for me? I'm struggling.
Genes, like, a football player has great genetics. He's more muscular. He's more attractive. Jawbone.
He has more genetics. He has better genetics for that particular sport. Better genetics that would lean, but that's a sport.
That guy doesn't have genetics that this world finds attractive. He doesn't have attractive genetics in this society.
That golden thing that Kevin. Yeah,
you said attractive. Yeah, you said attractive. Come with it. Bring it.
You want to keep going?
Yes, please unpack that. Please go ahead. What's attractive?
Yeah. So, like, we got standards for males too, no different than we have women. I got a number on the side of my head. I gotta use 6 products to keep my face looking like this. I got a skincare regimen. I gotta do things to adjust myself before I come outside, or my number gonna change up there. Women are gonna see a lower number. Right, but I'm blessed that my dad, like, I still got my hair. Every male on my dad's side of the family is all bald. My brother, my younger brother, my dad, all my cousins over there. Then my mom's side, I got my granddad's genetics. So I'm the only one in pictures that got hair. And everybody else been receding. That's genetics. These are attractive genetics in this society we live in.
We don't know this brother that was speaking in real life, right? So we're not talking about I was going to say, we're not talking about the products he needs for his skin. We don't know any of that. I was saying, all of us are watching the video, right? And we're looking at him, and you determine that he has bad genetics. And that's why I'm like, I'm not asking you about your genetics. I'm saying what makes him have, what do you mean? Because he don't have muscles? What are you saying?
Let the ladies let the ladies do that. I don't want to do that to a man.
Well, we didn't say he had bad genetics. That's why I asked you. But go ahead, Jen.
We all can see. We looking at him.
I can answer because I know what Mr. O is referring to, but it's coming off wrong, right? Because now he has to prove what makes this guy have bad genetics, right? Why is it? What is it that? Because he's black? Because he's black?
No, I'm saying we all have eyes. Like, the world just all measures us. We all get measured. We all do. We don't have no control on how to.
Because if I was in a club, now that's not to say that this guy can't clean himself up. He can't be in a nice suit, sit down with a glass, you know what I mean, of wine and look like something. Okay. But genetically looking at him, if me and my girls were in the club, he walked in frail, 5'8", his hair all over the place, okay, skin ashy, uneven. We're gonna say he's not attractive, right? So I think what he means, and I don't want to speak for you, but I'm just saying bad genetics. There's good genetics and there's bad genetics. Morris Chestnut walks in; those are good genetics. Okay, he looks healthy, he looks strong, he's glowy, he's dark skinned, right? This guy, not so much. So I think that's what he's referring to, because if he walked in a club, me and my girls would be like, if we saw him coming, we'll be like, girl, pull me to the bar. And that's a fact. even though it hurts feelings. That is the truth.
It's not about hurt feelings, Jen. It's
So,
about who gets to go ahead, Chef.
I don't know. The only thing, the question that I would have had for him is, how would you describe someone that had good genetics?
Tom Brady.
I just said,
Hey, it's the GOAT. I can't disagree. Hey, come on, yo.
I just said more.
Irrefutable, right? We ain't nobody gonna debate that.
I'm talking about that's who. Wait.
If Tom Brady and Glock 9 walks into a bar, who's walking out with a woman?
And I understand it because it's not a white or black thing either.
I wouldn't I wouldn't walk out with Tom Brady or Glock.
Jen said Morris Chestnut. So Buddy from the video or Morris Chestnut. They both walk into the bar. They both wearing suits. You know what I'm saying? Looking dapper. They both got lotion on today. All right, now what?
Morris
Who y'all
Chestnut.
go home with?
Morris Chestnut.
So you wouldn't give the other guy a chance, even if he had more swag.
We look at beauty as symmetry too. Like you got to be symmetrical. You got to be. Beauty has. It's a definition of beauty.
Do you think that
it's about aesthetics and shapes and color? Like,
a question for you: do you think that African people? Do you think that African people? Do you think that their genetics, especially the semi-typical African people that you see from the continent, do you feel as though they have bad genetics?
Hell no, we got bad habits over here.
No,
that alter our genetics.
That's not what I said.
Naturally, where we come from. Oh man, we got the best. We had the best.
Africa, hold on, Africa.
We had the best.
Nah, he went the long way. He went the long way to answer your question. He still answered you, Chef.
Right, we had the best genetics in Africa. Like they chose us to do the work because of the way our genetics are. This is why we dominate sports. Yeah, because we have the
people in Africa that look like him though.
He's speaking of a measure of beauty, and if our measure of beauty is based off a European standard, that doesn't mean that that's beauty. That means that that's our perceived reality.
So that's
you know what I'm saying?
It's Matrix.
There are bad genetics in every race and ethnicity. Let's not act like there isn't.
We're not talking about acne.
Africa has the best genes, right, on the planet. But that doesn't mean that you can't go to Africa and find an ugly person or an unattractive person.
No, Jen. You see, what's happening is that we've made it into, and that's why I asked for clarity. What do you mean by genetics? Because I think the assumption is that we're saying that because he's dark skinned, that he has bad genetics. And that's not what he said here. Because they are dark-skinned people who some people would say, like you're talking about, that has good symmetry, that has good proportion, right? So I'm clear on that. I was simply saying, when we say bad genetics, you keep talking about sports. And I'm like, outside of that, are we talking about acne? Are we talking about a crooked eye? Like, what are we?
I answered it, though. I answered it. He's a man. He's 5'7", 5'8". He's very skinny. So even if a woman's... Go down to your instincts. We're cave people. We don't speak. We don't do math. We're just looking for who's gonna bring home 2 buffaloes tonight. He's not gonna get picked.
And that's why I was saying the products, because genetically I got issues with pseudo Barbie. So I gotta take care of my skin to adjust myself to he could overcome some of the genetic things and still adjust them and be appealing. But off rip, like he got bad genetics, and that's why he losing when it come to women. It ain't because of his skin color.
The bad genetics piece is I'm having a hard time with that.
Like I don't want to call him ugly but
you don't want to call him ugly. You don't want to call him ugly.
He ain't got nothing on me.
I think he's making himself look ugly. That's what I think. I think he's.
So then that wouldn't be genetic.
I would love to go out with him. He can go out with me every night.
You didn't want to call him ugly.
He can go out with me every night.
But you talked about his genetics, his DNA scheme.
That's a better way to put it, because it's facts.
Still genetic.
Because we all measure genetics. We do. We measure it.
Genetic. It's still genetic.
If he was trying out for football, we gonna look at his genetics and nobody gonna say nothing. They're gonna measure his genetics to see if he can get on the team.
Look,
Genetically,
How do you
this is
measure
why
his
this is why they
genetic?
focus on it. Oh,
by
this is why they
those
focus.
jumping
You happen
from
to be the source
his
that bring it
abilities.
up.
His
You happen to be the
abilities.
source that brought up the
His
subject,
specimen.
right?
Huh?
You happen to be the source that brought up the subject, but the reason why the topic is still going is because it ties right into everything else. And when you're saying colorism, a lot of times we associating a lot of these other things with it as well. These genetic deficiencies that you see. So if someone does have the proverbial big nose or you know what I'm saying, soup coolers, you understand what I'm saying? Whatever the thing is that is not based on this modern definition of what beauty is, even though it's subjective. There's a lot. There's a
Like
wide
Carla said,
range of what
let's
that is.
include your preference. In some genetics are more acceptable to certain people. Some people don't mind certain things, you know. But we have a standard. We have a standard.
You made a point about his muscles, right? And maybe that's something he can go to the gym and change. He can't change.
You can fix that.
So the height might be genetics, right?
You can fix acne. You can fix a lot of the things.
So I'm saying that might, even though that might be genetics in the sense that, you know, you are more susceptible to those things because your gene pool, I get that. But there are some things that could be corrected. But when you talk about height, that's one of them that can't be corrected. But when he was talking about his experience, it's very clear that he's been called ugly most of his life. It's very clear. You don't even need to say it. Like, you can tell.
If we're being honest,
by what he's saying. And so he is saying, I don't want my child. He does not like himself because people have told him that he doesn't deserve to, you know, well, let me not say it like that. People have told him that he's unattractive, right? Or he don't have good genetics, right? All his life. So he don't want his child to have to go through what he went through. My issue then becomes when we start talking about good and bad genetics. Because when we say genetics, we're talking about eyes, nose, lips, right? All of these things, right? And my thing is, who gets to decide what is good genetics and what is bad genetics? That is where I'm struggling.
Popular culture.
Right. And y'all get your likes up. Get the likes up, or we're gonna mess with your DNA.
I can answer that. I can answer
Popular
that.
culture sets that.
There are two things. There are two things that determine. There are two things that decide. Right. One is media. Right. If media this decade is putting women size 2 on magazines and in commercials, they decide for that decade. If the next decade it's bigger women, they decide that decade. But then there's another thing that we cannot ignore, which is life in general, nature. There is a thing called eugenics, right? Let's say we take the looks away from everything. If you go to a sperm bank, right, they want people who would more than likely have a bunch of college degrees, who are tall, who were physically fit. No one goes to a sperm bank and say, give me anything, because who cares who decides what are good genes and bad genes? No.
They will reject you for your genetics, right?
Right. The people at the sperm bank are taking the best genetics. You can't just Kodak Black and whatever this guy's name is. Somebody mentioned Kodak Black. They can't go in there and deposit sperm and think that people are going to be clamoring for their children to look, you know, be 5'5", skinny, okay, malnourished. Nobody wants those genetics. So genetics is a real thing. Looks aside, no one, you know, eugenics is real. People are looking how to breed, you know what I mean, better. And I don't think that that's necessarily a race thing, because by nature, women want men that look strong, that appear tall, that appear like they can provide and protect. That's nature. But yes, there is the other side where it's media deciding by what they shove down our throats. This is attractive. This isn't attractive. This is attractive. Looking at that boy, I can say those are bad genetics. He's a tiny, you know what I mean, petite man. I wouldn't feel protected around him. Right?
But do we have to participate in what the dominant culture says Is it right or wrong, or do we? I mean, I'm just asking. I'm literally just challenging this because
you are free to date that guy all you want to. You could date him. The Glock 9s out. Y'all could
come
date
on,
him.
Mr. O. I'm not
But
even
you
talking
don't
about.
want those guys. Like it's like you're trying to. Maybe we're trying to get an understanding, but I don't think any woman found him attractive.
I know.
And it wasn't because
So here's a question I want to ask. Here's a question I want to ask.
Okay, wait. Can I finish my thought? Can I finish my thought first, Mr. O? I'm just pushing back so that we can have a deeper conversation around it. Because it's very easy to say, well, this is what the dominant culture, so we just gonna rock with it, right? But the reality is that the dominant culture has set some standards that have been detrimental to people that look like you and I for a very long time, right? And so for us to just then now participate and go along because it sits well with us, because we are not on the receiving end of it, that's where I want us to really begin to challenge those things within ourselves, because it's like, do we have to participate? Because just last week, and of course it's not literally last week, just last week, okay, segregation was okay. Just last week, discrimination against people that look like us was okay. And that was the dominant culture. There was laws on the books that protected that, right? Protected those things, right? And so the rest of the society is like, okay, we're going along. So when we talk about dominant culture, I know who dominant culture is. We know who dominant culture is, right? We could dance around it, but we know. And I'm very clear on that. So now me as a person who has, and I say this as my ancestors, as a person who has been on the receiving end of it, now I participate in it and I go along with it simply because I am not on the receiving end, because I don't have what dominant culture calls bad genetics. That's what I'm challenging, because today is bad genetics. Tomorrow is, people with broad noses. The next day is people with big lips. My thing is, where do we draw the line to say, whoa, I have to really begin to dismantle this within me and challenge it whenever I come, into spaces like this where some things are being said that I think we just need to dive a little deeper in. That's all I'm doing. I do not want to date him, Mr. O.
Okay, I was about to say I might know somebody that might know how to get in touch with him.
I understand what Hanifa is saying, and it is a valid point. But I don't think anybody here is going along with what the dominant culture is saying or doing. I know I certainly don't. I'm a huge rebel. I will not know the blonde hair. I don't care about the blonde hair or the size 2 model or the blue. I don't care. This is what's beautiful to me. This is what I think is superior to me. So I don't think anybody's going along with it. I've never been one to go along with it. But yes, innately, I'm going for the taller person or the darker person, the person with the soup cooler somebody mentioned earlier, because that's what's the epitome of superiority to me, right? So, but it's a great thing that you're challenging it, because it is true. How much, again, like the stream Mr. O and I had earlier, how much of it is preference, and how much of it is dominant culture telling you this is what you're supposed to like. But I think as far as genetics, that is real. That is why people go to the sperm bank and say, what you got? Well, we got somebody with a doctorate degree. He's 6'2". He had a 6-pack his entire life. I want that sperm right there. So that's true as well. Like, I couldn't do a little Kodak Black or a little whatever his name is, Glock, whatever. They just look, to me, it looks like bad genetics. You look malnourished, you're a petite man, you're a short man. What are we gonna do? You know what I mean? When we have to go out and get the buffalo. I'm not getting the buffalo, right? I'm cooking the buffalo. So
I think oh, sorry, Jen, go ahead. I was gonna say, I know 100 Watts was trying to say something, so I really wanted to hear what he was trying to say. I apologize.
What?
Oh no, I just wanted to kind of just throw another idea out there, away from genetics. Sometimes attractiveness does have to do with like how you carry yourself, right? Because whether we talking about genetics or how you take care of yourself or whatever, or who has an opinion, ain't nobody gonna tell me I'm ugly, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like,
okay.
Like,
no, like,
I mean, and if you feel like I am, that's cool. That's your perspective. But I mean, I know.
But see, like, men don't have no problem being told that we underachieve, we underdevelop. Like, a short guy know he gotta make a lot of money, man. A fat guy know he gotta lose some weight. Like, we know, we'll take that and we'll adjust ourselves and still get out there and compete. I don't think it's gonna hurt our feelings to tell me where I stand when it comes to ranking in this society. If I'm gonna be out here and try to compete with the women in this society, then it's rules. It
I mean,
already
honestly,
exists.
I think it's more important on a man's side. This whatever idea of physical attractiveness. When I talk to women that I do know, they and I say, "What's your type? What do you like?" They always have a hard time defining what their type is physically, but it's very, very easy for them to define what they like about said man that or this ideal man. He carries himself like this. He smells good. He's got this much confidence. He stands like this, and I think those are a bigger set of attractive factors for uh, the ladies. Would you agree, ladies, since y'all here?
Say again. I'm sorry. The last question, I was distracted.
I was saying that for ladies, attractiveness generally, I find that ladies say that their descriptors about the things they're attracted to is based more on how a man carries himself, how he smells, how he stands, his confidence, more so than them being able to easily define a set of physical features that are attractive to them, light, dark, tall.
Okay.
I mean, anything other than just tall.
Absolutely, you're absolutely correct. That is how, the quote unquote average guy ends up with a beautiful woman, because yes, aesthetically we like certain things. Oh, he got to be tall. Oh, he got to have a six pack. Oh, he got to have nice full lips, right? That's all well and good, but you're absolutely right. At the end of the day, we're going to go for that guy that's attractive intellectually, that stimulates us intellectually, the way he stands, the way he smells, the way he laughs, the way he addresses issues. So you're absolutely right. That is true.
It's an initial attraction that's visual, but then to sustain her attention for a long period of time, you got to have other tools that make up for your shortcomings, whether it be in genetics or money or height or whatever you lacking. You got to come up with some other tools to keep her engaged, and guys figure out how to make what they got work for them. Like we're gonna figure it out. And that's what he's doing right now. The Glock 9 dude. He says, shoot, I'm tired of losing. Let me start rapping. And I'm going to get some girls. And he did. He getting girls because he rapping famous, got some money now. He on TV.
I agree. The initial attraction is what kind of draws us in. But that has to that drawing or that attraction then has to be maintained. Because I know when I was in the dating world, I'm off the market. I've been off the market for some years. For me personally, I'm 5'9", and so if I talk to someone who is like maybe 5'10", maybe closer in height, okay, I might say, okay, that's fine. But then it goes to, can you hold a conversation, right? Can we have, and I'm not talking about surface level conversation. How deep are we willing to go, right? So that matters tremendously to me. So, but because I'm 5'9", I don't get caught up in height, but I'm not going to pretend that it didn't factor in me choosing who I'm with. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
It's sort
because
of
you can't even get to the conversation if the catch hand ain't right, man. Like,
yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
I got a question for you.
Right.
I'm not as well traveled as some. Do you think that that's only true or that it's true in more places than just America about this beauty standard? Because I know a lot of people in the military and they go to other places and they're like, oh man, over here we're treated like gods. They love us. They can't get enough of us. A lot of them don't even come home.
Yeah, because of the culture over there. That's why I want to say again, it's the culture over there that's why they stay. It ain't the beauty standard is set, like everybody looking at America. The whole world. Like you even got Europeans looking at America and trying to like, maybe I'm missing something. Let me be more like them. Then they find out they not. They had it better where they come from. Like, but we're influencing the entire world. They all watching America. And so as a result of that, the standards that are set here, they set the majority standards. Every little girl want to be like a Kardashian. Like, because it's popular culture. It exists. It's gonna always exist, and we're not in control of our media, so they are in control of what's the masses what's put out.
Which is why we're here right now.
This the media right here, brother.
Word of money.
Right.
So,
By the way, I've been told more times than not, and I don't care, but I've been told more times than not, like, why are you dating such and such? He's ugly, or he's this, or he's that. But there's a certain swag, and maybe the swag is emphasized because, like Mr. O said, when you look a certain way, when you're not mainstream attractive, you have to, you know what I mean, cultivate the other things about your personality or your sex game or your X, Y, and Z, whatever it is, right? Or the way you tell a joke or the way you relate to women. But I've been told that more than once, like someone I'm dating or, you know, oh, why you with him? Or I'm like, because I like him.
So Jen, you like ugly dudes?
According to my friends.
He might have a chance then. He might have a chance.
Vic,
Hey, look.
She out here fronting, Vic. She like them guys with the bad genetics.
Hey, okay.
Listen,
them thugs. Them thugs don't come pretty.
I like abstract faces. I like art.
That was an abstract face for sure.
But he's tiny. Let me tell you.
Cut it out. Did you say abstract faces?
Yeah, you taking shots at my man. That's what you doing.
I like Picasso's, but let me tell you something. That little boy, the what is his name? Glock 9. That little
Glock 9. You know, you like Glock, like a couple of the joints you got.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. Okay, so look, I will say this: Glock 9. If that dude was 6'2" and muscular, and he walked in the gym, he's gonna catch my eye with that face that he had. Because to me, genetics
Crack his back, baby.
business. He looked like he could move furniture on his own, and that's what I'm attracted to. So
okay, and Mr. O gonna be over there clean as fuck, mad as hell.
But man,
what do he got?
Let me see him. No, I don't like his face. He looks like a grandma.
Oh my God, is that basketball dude?
What do you think about his genetics?
No, his face kind of looks like a grandma, like an auntie. Like no.
Who that, Manute Bowl?
Yeah.
No,
is he Sudanese?
Yeah. Okay. So let me tell you about Manute Bowl, right? We were talking about the genetics thing. Oh, he was considered a sex symbol in Africa.
Right.
How many wives did he have, bro?
He had many. Okay. And even without playing basketball, he was that dude.
Now, is that tradition out there where
it's not genetics? And I mean, it's not necessarily about tradition. You get what I'm saying? Watch this.
Talk about a man having many wives, because I know Akon is the same.
Oh, I mean, yeah, they have the ability to have multiple wives, but the point that I'm making is that his look, he was that dude. That was their Denzel, right? Rest in peace. Okay, as crazy as it sounds. So when we look at it, you know, what do you think that they would look at Tom Brady?
The same way I look at him.
That's some shitty genetics.
Okay. It'd be the opposite.
It's like, yo, what is this guy?
What does that smell?
It's from culture. From culture to culture, it does differ. I remember when I went to Uganda, my complexion scared a little baby. She ran to her mom and said, Muzungu, 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 right? And Muzungu is what they call white people in Uganda. And I was in the village when that happened. I was just like, oh my God, I am not that light. But she was extremely dark, and most of the people around her was. So from culture to culture, it depends.
How is that? I need to stop saying cracker and whitey. What's that word?
Caucasian.
Muzungu.
Well, or Manute Bowl was like just the best option in the market.
Oh, stop it, Mr. O. You stop it.
Oh man, like he tall. He tall.
Why you act like
got a lot
Project
of
Pat
height.
don't get no bitch?
You traveled the world, bro.
Everybody got some,
You traveled the world, bro.
It's levels to it though, man. Like
But
it
you
is
traveled
levels.
the world, bro.
You're not gonna put Glock 9 and Manute Bowl at my table. It's not gonna happen. It's
Project
different.
Pat,
No,
take
you
your
traveled the
different,
world,
man.
bro.
It's
But you
different.
traveled
With
the
no
world.
money.
You built culture.
Yeah, and it take me over there when Manute Bowl was having my way and see if I'll put him on the bench. That's crazy. That's crazy. Like, come on.
Hey, I can appreciate
Do
your
you?
confidence.
Okay, so wait. So let me just say this now. Okay, I just want to make sure. So at least we get. I'm trying to catch a baseline with you right now, right? So no, hold on. I'm trying to catch a baseline. So, do you believe somebody's echoing in the background? By the way, do you believe that everywhere in the world, the same exact standard for beauty that you see is what they see?
I believe I believe one thing. If men can't agree on nothing, every one of them, whether they tell you or not, will have sex with Kim Kardashian.
Bro, all right.
Everyone.
Okay, so let me do this. Hold on.
Everyone.
Can you give me another answer? But at least somewhere in there, there'll be a yes or a no in there, right? Because I'm asking you, do you believe, and you traveled the world, right? You were in the military, you traveled the world. So what I'm asking you is, do you really believe that everywhere around the world, they have the same exact beauty standards?
I don't think it's required everywhere in the world.
Do you think it's a yes?
Yeah, I think they'll look at something that we all can see beautiful, and they would all say, yes, that's beautiful, but it's not for me. Some people would say it's not for me. But I don't think that I'm beautiful here, but I'm ugly somewhere else. Like I'm
Can I ask this question?
He said he's beautiful everywhere.
Can I ask the question like this?
Beautiful, yeah.
Maybe
your answer. Maybe your answer is still the same, but I want to pose the question.
There's a definition in the dictionary of beauty. Throw that up there.
Vehemently.
Go ahead, Watts.
What's the definition of beauty?
So your answer may be the same, but I want to ask the question in a different way. Would you say for you, Mr. O, that you getting women's attention would be the same here in America versus you in Europe?
Put it on Jen, not me. Like, do the same thing you did with me, but do it with her, because it worked the same way. Like, I don't want it to be about me, because now I'm sounding like too much. I think Jen is beautiful. Anywhere in the world, everybody would look at her and say, that's beautiful. Some people would say it's not for me, but they would not say that she's not beautiful. I mean, in a lot of countries I went to, like a lot of people, they end up marrying in their village or in their community, and they choose the best option that they have, and they look at it like it's just something I need done, and I'm gonna grow to like love this person, but it ain't based on it got to be the most beautiful person or I'm not doing nothing. I don't think everybody requires the most beautiful person as a mate. I think they are okay with some things and finding beauty in other ways to get through life. But a beautiful object, like that's what we was talking about. Around the world, she's the standard of beauty. Nobody's gonna say she's ugly, but people will say it's not for them. Yeah, beauty is beauty.
I think I understand the well, I'll agree with this comment that Mr. O said, although I disagree with the other stuff. But I do agree that beauty is not required everywhere. So we can't really say, well, look, they all picked Manute Bol, right? That's what happens in that village, right? Certain tribes, men do have several wives. It doesn't mean that he's banging. It means, no, in this country, in my village, I'm a wife of many. It's not required as much as I think is required in the United States. Then it's spread out everywhere, right? Like Indian women in India, they're bleaching their skin because they want to be lighter. In Asia, women are making their eyes rounder so they don't look Asian. So it's spread out. But I don't think that beauty is required everywhere. I think that, as far as anybody would smash Kim Kardashian, maybe yes, maybe no. There are millions of women now that look exactly like Kim Kardashian. So saying any man would hit Kim Kardashian is not saying much, because men like vagina. So
we gotta switch the other way. Because
can we all agree on that? Can we all agree on that?
That's true. That's fair.
Can we all?
That's fair.
It's not like we're just so
all right, you got me.
I'll finish. Let me say this.
Yeah.
There is not one man that Kim Kardashian has married or dated that wouldn't smash me if I was offering it.
Hello.
First of all, look, you ain't know that you alright.
What you said? What you said?
I'm saying it not because of my look, because I have a vagina, and men like vagina.
That's true. That's true.
That's it. So because of my looks, Gabby Sidibe is getting married. If she didn't tie the knot already, she's the actress that played this. She's getting married if she's not married right now, but she's engaged. Last I checked. So it's like,
can I ask a question? Because I'm listening to you guys talk about this, and I'm like, okay, so are we not seeing the correlation or the connection between? I know, Jen. I'm not even coming there. I'm just wondering if you guys are seeing the connection between how one perceives beauty and their culture, like the cultural influence of how beauty is observed or perceived. You get what I'm saying? Because I think the assumption is that the Western standard of beauty is everybody's standard of beauty, and that's not true. And I think that's what, like, I'm not speaking for Chef, but it's like when he showed that, it's almost like that's what he's alluding to. But I think in our Western minds, we think, because this is just Western way of thinking, we just think we rule the entire world. Okay, when I say we, no, I'm saying when I say we, it's almost like, okay, Western thinking is that our way of doing, our way of thinking, our way of seeing is superior, and so we assume that everyone else's way of seeing things is in alignment with ours. And again, I think it depends on the cultural influences. There are some of us who grew up in environments where the standard of beauty just looked different. The things that people went after, the woman that got the men, just looked different. And so if you want to say that Kim Kardashian is beautiful everywhere to you, let me be clear, to you, then make it very specific to you.
No, I mean with
finish, you might be surprised that she might show up somewhere in somebody's village somewhere. And they're like, ew, why you look like that?
I got the perfect example for you. Oh, you said you want to take it off of you, right? You said you take it off of you, right? All right. Jen, if they took you over to Japan, right, where one of their beauty standards is small feet, and they seen you were a 9 in boys, they might diss you regardless of how you look.
I'm a diss over here. A 9? Man, you don't want a 9? You want a 9?
I wear 7.5.
Come on, man. That's a big foot now.
But he's right. I don't wear 9, I wear 7.5.
Why you do that? Why you do that?
It's 11 in girls.
No, 7.5. I'm short. Just 7.5. What's wrong with
Come on, man. That ain't just a Chinese. That's not a Japanese thing, man. That's not just a
Hey, you did it. Oh, you did it.
A proportionate size foot to the body, and 9's a little big, unless she's like 6'5".
What you had to say, Jen?
No, I just think it goes without saying. Absolutely, like no one is attractive everywhere. No one is, and I know that here in this country, that Kim Kardashian is the second coming of Marilyn Monroe. They are going to shove this woman down our throats. Is the epitome of beauty. Yet she is refigured, remastered, and resurgeried head to toe. You
Jen?
are not the epitome of beauty to me. You look weird from the waist down. She looks tough. Build a
Jen?
baby from the waist down.
Jen?
Can't
Sometimes you just gotta let people have it because
Look, King, he said he universally handsome. Put King comment up there. He said I'm universally handsome.
and that's okay. And that's okay for someone to feel that way about themselves. All I'm saying is that we have to understand that not because for ourselves first, that we might think we're the bomb anywhere, right? And that you should. But you also have to accept that you or anyone that you find attractive is not going to be attractive everywhere that you go. That's just reality.
Okay, that's fair. Nothing's absolute. That's fair.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but the majority
Standing your ground. Oh my God, I love it.
Queen Hanifa.
I get where I fit in. I know what my limits are. I get in where I fit in. Ija.
Hanifa, I need your brain on this one, okay? My brother, conversation with King, said that there are some bone structures that are, I don't want to misquote him if I don't know if you can still see that comment, Chef, but he says something in the range of there are certain bone structures that are universally appealing. Can you concur with that?
I feel that's what Mr. O
he said that transcends race.
Yeah,
there's something called the golden ratio, aka the Fibonacci scale or the Fibonacci sequence.
So everything rolls around.
I think that's what Mr. O was alluding to when he was talking about symmetry in the
person that said I was all cap. See, there we go. I'm not all cap. It's the truth.
The Fibonacci sequence is more so a mathematical, is more so a mathematical construct, and they were able to find certain correlations to that and generally accepted facial structure. We have somebody just popped in the room. Yeah. We got an all-star on deck for you. You ready to rock? Put your Kevlar on. Juana Washington, everybody.
Okay. So she was in the chat real heavy. So let's hear what she got to say.
Let me tell you, she's the food truck that's parked right outside of the garden. She's one of the garden flowers. And she's our food truck.
I thought you were going to say she outside right now.
The food truck parked outside the garden.
That's right. Tell them, please, Juana, I want you, first of all, Juana is actually one of my first sponsors of the Chef Choupino channel. She sent me Cash App. I sincerely appreciate you for that. She looked out for the cause. And I want you to tell them, because we talk about our businesses and that stuff. Tell them about what you do and what makes you wonderful, please.
Peace, peace, peace. Beautiful, beautiful people. My people.
Peace.
Just because I do not feel or believe or think or know that I am Black does not mean that I am not of you. I'm over here in Arkansas. I'm hanging out in these streets. Thank you, Chef, for that shout out. You're a very gracious person. I do have a very humble food trailer that I began about 3 weeks when the state shut down for COVID. Can I say COVID, Chef?
Yeah, you do your thing.
Might as well.
All the crap I talk, trust me, you good.
Okay, so when a year or so ago when the state shut down across the countries, well, I shouldn't say country because it's a corporation. When the state shut down, I was working in a kitchen and restaurant, cooking. That's my wheelhouse. And I wasn't one to sit around waiting on a freaking government check. That's not me. I wasn't wanting to wait around for unemployment. That's not me. So 3 weeks after the state shut down, I got a food trailer and opened up, and I serve a concept that I created called Soul Food Tacos. Man, they love my collard green and fried okra tacos. Let me tell you, it's number one. Check it out on Google. I got 5 stars on Google, Chef. Telling you, it's for real. But if I didn't say so, yes, I'm in.
Pull up on me.
If I didn't say so, guys, I'm in Arkansas. I'm in the South. A little bit about my background. I'm 52 years old. I was raised by a single father. I did go to university. I did go to university for a little while. Had several majors, over 120 hours. I should have a degree, but I do not. But I read a lot. I research a lot. I listen very well, and I can come off a little, abrasive. There was a conversation a couple of your chats ago, Chef, where someone actually thought that I was a rock. That may be because I was raised by, I'm very masculine male, with my mother not really in my life. But don't want to bore you, don't want to slow down the chat. I do want to be a part of the conversation. I recognize that words in print can be misleading and misguiding. It is it's much more appropriate to speak face to face, because communication is really is limited. Majority of the communication is probably about 80 to 90% body language, tone, inflection, things of that nature, et cetera, et cetera. So it was very important to me to see if I can get on. And oh my goodness, I forgot to even ask, can you all hear me well, or is it sound robotic?
Yeah, you sound real clear.
Perfect.
I was on JP Aspiring Matriarch, and it was the most horrible display of audio ever. But I just had to get on here to just let my people know we are not a monolith. We do not all think the same. We do not all believe the same. We do not come from the same sphere of knowledge. Black is not a race. White is not a race. So if we're going to say Jay, that's my nickname, Jay. If we're going to say Jay, black and white is not a race, then what is it? And what are we talking about? And if it's not a race, doesn't that mean there is no such thing as racism? That's exactly right. There is no such thing as racism. We've been hoodwinked, and this is what Brother Malcolm X has tried to express to us. We've been bamboozled. We've been hoodwinked. They know it's not a race. Are we being mistreated at times? Absolutely. Is there discrimination? Of course. It'd be ridiculous not to acknowledge that. By everyone? And if we're going to go there, how many of you go to a so-called white doctor? How many of you so-called have had a white lawyer? How many of you had a so-called white teacher whom you respect? You think those are the only ones on the planet? And when I say that there is only one race, then what are we talking about, all these differences? We're speaking about culture, my friends. Family, we're speaking about culture. We're speaking about ethnicity. I am a very exact person. Words matter. They have meaning. So if you're going to speak on something, we have to speak about it in the most proper sense. And I would dare say, Chef, that we would have to even go to the etymology, meaning the root, the seeds of the word that we use. If you look at the root word, black, as Malcolm did when he was in prison, when the guy pulled him aside and said, hey, look at these words that you're using. And he had a freaking revelation. He had an epiphany. He woke up. Look at the terms that you're using. They have meaning. The word black is not beautiful. It does not mean that. In fact, the word black is an adjective, but we're using it as a noun. This matters. A person cannot be black. They can have a black hair or a black shoe or a black car. Even my own skin tone is not black, it's brown. Do you not find that contradictory? Why do you call, let's just stop it right here. Let's get down to basics. Look at your skin tone, everyone. Just quiet your mind for a moment. Look at your skin tone and look and think in your mind of the color black, because black is a color. Think of that color. Is that you? Is that your skin color? And if the answer is no, what are we talking about? Think about it. Look at your skin color. My skin color is not black. It's brown. It's beautiful. But if it's brown, then why am I saying that it's black? Black is a very distinctive, very definite, very deliberate term. It is a color. But is that you? Now, psychologically, your mind is going to do a flip-flop. That's called cognitive dissonance. Your mind is going to do a backflip, because you're going to look at your skin and you're going to say, wow, it's not black. So if it's not black, what are we talking about? What we're talking about is a social construct. And I'm not trying to be condescending when I say this, but do you understand what a social construct is? That means society created something. Which society? Rich, wealthy landowners. Why did they come up with that? When did they come up with that? Well, if we do your research, research shows in reading, and I can't quote where it is, but it can be found, and maybe I'll come back on another time with it. I used to have all this stuff, but my ex deleted it all. But anyway, yes, someone in the chat said, or on the panel said, well, it started on the plantations. That's exactly correct. It started on the plantations in what we call North America. And I say North America because Canada is America, and so is South America is America. Central America is America. These are the Americas. Where we are in the United States is not the only America. So I have to be very distinctive and precise about where I'm talking about. In the Americas, in the landmass of North America, plantation owners, because different people who had different pigmentations, some of them were Irish, some of them were from Kenya or from the west parts of the continent of Africa, different places, different countries, and they were all homies. They were all buddies. They were all in bondage, and I use the term in bondage for a very definite reason, because when you say slave, the etymology of the word slave is Slav, which means Slavic peoples. We were not enslaved. We were in bondage together. We were in bondage with people who look what we would call white. We were on the same side, and at those times there were many rebellions between people whom we would consider white and people who we would consider Africans. Well, that wasn't going to work. That wasn't going to work for wealthy landowners. So what did they do? We're all familiar with the tactic of divide and conquer. So they used a mechanism, and they created a mechanism, a device, a social construct to divide us. And how did they do that? Well, when you want one person to be on your side, you'll give them special privileges or special favors.
The Willie Lynch letter.
Well, I love that damn Willie Lynch letter, but I'm not confident in its validity, Chef. But I love that damn Willie Lynch letter, because if it was written or not, we can still see those characteristics that are produced. Had that actually been a truthful letter, we can see the characteristics.
I have a question for you, Anna. And the thing is, you know, you and I, we definitely gonna have to sit down and chop it up, because I see that there's definitely gonna be a place that we're gonna be able to use your intellect and your vast amount of knowledge, right? So now, I want to do this. I want you to think like we're kindergartners, and you're the kindergarten teacher, right? But you have a degree. You know, you have a PhD and everything. My question. No. I'm being serious. I'm not being funny. When I say it like
no,
that.
I'm being funny because no, I do not. I have many hours in school, but I didn't graduate in shit.
Yeah, but you know, that's another thing we're going to talk about, the educational system and how it can be a hustle as well. That's another show, right? So this thing that we talk about, I understand you don't subscribe to the theory because the underlying assumptions of that theory pretty much don't exist to you, and they shouldn't. Now, I understand. But now, let's say you're somewhere where this thing is an actual thing that exists.
I'm sorry, is an actual what? Someone coughed.
Thing. Oh, no, you're fine. This thing that we're talking about, this thing of colorism, it's, even if it exists within a social construct, it exists. That social construct is literally a social matrix, right? So it exists. So my thing is this, because we're about action steps. If it exists within that matrix, how will we write the code to delete that glitch within that matrix? What can we do to stop it? Because it's something that's going on, even though you may not consider it being actually there. There's people that are, you know, that are going through it. So how can we cure their psychosis?
I can't think right now, Chef, but someone in history said the truth shall set you free. Who said that? Is that biblical? Is that scripture?
No.
Where does that come from,
Yes.
Miss? Is it Hanifa?
Yes, it is. It's Hanifa.
A beautiful name. You're a beautiful woman.
Thank you.
So it's not scripture. Where does that come from? I'm all about the chat. Come on, chat. Where is the truth?
It is scripture.
Truth shall set you free. Where does that come from?
It was
a scripture.
It was actually Jesus. He said it. It was. It came from John 8:32.
Yes, it's Jesus. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna begin there, Chef, to answer you. Now you said speak as if I'm the kindergarten teacher and you're a kindergartner. I'm not sure if that's if I'm able to do that, but I'll say if I was speaking to a 4-year-old and I begin with the truth shall set you free. To answer your question, how do we stop the glitch of that thing? The truth I would tell the 4-year-old is that God made one people. There's one people. Man created race. Man said, and I can't name them, but one is named Blumenbach. He's a German guy. Came up with a concept of so-called race. And he came up with it in the 1600s. I know there's somebody who can Google it. I'm on a freaking cracked cell phone. Something Blumenbach.
It was you talking about Johann Friedrich.
Yes, Chef. Come on, Chef. I love you. I love this man.
He was the 18th.
Man, I love you. I love you because I can't even get some of the words right, but you are right there with me. This guy and a couple of other fancy guys of other nationalities. Some of them were German. Some of them, I think one was Swedish. They came up with these terms: black, white, the yellow man, the red man, and they called it race. Before the, I said in the chat before the 1400s because I was being generous. But before the 1600s, this concept did not even exist. Do you understand how long ago that was? People referred to themselves by their cultural backgrounds, by their so-called tribes, their family names, their countries, their landmass, for lack of a better term. These people on these slave plantations, they were from places that people can point to. They were Irish, they were Kenyans, they were from all these other countries, and they held on to that. They knew who they were, and they were intermingled. They married, they had sex, they had children together. They ate together, they slept together, they worked together, they toiled together, they cried together, they joyed together. This was not good for the business of bondage. It is historically written and categorized that the wealthy landowners instituted a concept to separate them. Now, you just can't go around and say, okay, no, you're not Irish and you're not from Kenya and you're not from blah, blah, blah. And that just separates people. To the people whose pigmentation is of what we would call white, they gave more privileges.
So for the folks that don't know, Johann Friedrich Blumenbach, he was the guy. What he pretty much did, he did a lot of studies. Him and his folks, they were pretty sick, man.
They're very sick.
They were, when I say sick in today's, there's like the movie Get Out, kind of sick. Okay, one of the things that they did was measured the craniums of different people. This guy, when you hear the term Caucasian, you hear the term Mongolian, Ethiopian, American, they literally, what they did, him and his crazy friends, they were the ones that came up with the term. He was the father of the term Caucasian. You know what I'm saying? They were some crazy people. The thing is, what I'm saying is, this part, like, this is a different show. This is deep. Like, I wouldn't even do it live. I would sit down and, like, where we would talk and do a video where we show clips and reference materials, right? But I'm talking about right now, there's somebody that exists out here that is treating someone lesser because of the color of their skin. There's someone who's out there that's getting better treatment because of the color of their skin. There's people that are gaining and losing opportunities based on the color of their skin. So my question to you is, how do we help? Like, do we have any action steps like to help them? Because that's the thing I was saying. It exists. I'm not saying that we subscribe to it, but there's this thing that's out there that's happening to people. You see what I'm saying? So what do we do to help stop that?
Individually, level up. Individually, be the best spirit that you can be for yourself and for your family. Because the cream will always rise to the top.